Well, it's time to build old Merle here an exhaust that he deserves. 2.5-inch mandrel bent stainless tubing, some Spintech mufflers, and a completely gaudy and unnecessary crossover. The problem is that we gotta stuff 10 pounds of cool stuff in a 5-pound space. So, we're gonna tackle this the way I always tackle problems like this. Some ice cold black coffee. I'm going to crank some Debussy on my shop radio and lay underneath old Merle here till I get it figured out. Well, once again, caffeine and Claire de Lune have steered me right. After laying under Merle for a few minutes, it became painfully obvious that my original plan had about a 0% chance of success. But all is not lost. We got us a new plan. We're still going to have a fancy crossover. We just kind of have to shuffle stuff around a little bit, because one of the key things in designing this exhaust is I want everything to stay above the frame rails, with the exception of where the header outputs are right here. Those are below the frame rail. There's not a whole lot I can do about it. But right after that, we're going to kick it up above that front cross member, and then from there back, it's above the frame rails, so won't have to worry about dragging it on anything. So, we're going to hop inside here. I'm going to tell you about the different kinds of crossovers and why we're going to do what we're going to do. And then we'll roll up under Merle. I'll show you the battle plan and get to work. Just ignore that. So there are two main styles of crossovers that are usually used, and then a third style that's awesome. So the first style is an H pipe, right? H. So you've got your main exhaust tubes coming down, and then you essentially have a balance pipe in between them. So your exhaust is coming down, but it can kick into there and equalize. The other main style is an X pipe. So that is where they're joined together in the middle, so your flow of exhaust comes here and it can kick that way or that way. This one goes this way, it can go that way or that way. That equalizes your pressure. If you put them in the right spot, it can help with scavenging and all that. The third style is completely gaudy and unnecessary. Whatever, I'm not a spellingologist. Unnecessary. You probably can't spell it either off the top of your head. So what that does, you got your two pipes here. I'm going to make sure I don't get confused when I'm drawing this. We'll get our tops and our bottoms. Is this pipe, you've got your straight through, and it has a crossover to the other pipe. This pipe crosses over to this pipe, but they don't connect. It's its own separate pipe. So your exhaust has its path here, and it can come over here and join with this. This side has your pipe here. It can come over here and join with that there. In super high horsepower applications, this is kind of your power curve too, right? Like, these aren't massive differences in horsepower, but an H pipe is going to give you more power and torque than just true duals, and it'll mellow out your sound because your exhaust pulses can intermingle. An X pipe is louder and raspier than an H pipe, and it'll give you a little bit more horsepower than an H pipe typically. A Z pipe is the most complicated, will or should give you more horsepower than an X pipe, and they sound ungodly awesome. So, of course, this is what we're going to do in Merle, because I want the challenge of fitting it in a Blazer. And I don't know about you, but I ain't never seen a rock crawler with a stainless steel Z pipe in it before. And I want that to exist in the world, so I will build it. Join me as we delve into the plan. So we have what started as our old exhaust here that didn't work because these initial mandrels that I ordered are not mandrels. These are supposed to be the same diameter through the bend as they are through the straight, and they are not even close. I could make that work, but it'd look like crap and I wouldn't be happy with it, so therefore unacceptable. So we're going to scrap this and start over. Got V-bands at the headers. This one we're going to need to throw a little bit of heat at it right here and get this bent over so that we're not so close to our shackle here, because as it sits right now, when we compress this is going to swing back into the exhaust. Not acceptable. So we'll get this moved, and then what we're going to do is follow this same initial routing, right? We're going to S-bend up and then pipe it straight back. My transfer case with the new drivetrain is going to end up being back about here, so that kind of kills adding a crossover before mufflers underneath the truck. So we're going to S up and then come back, and then right about here, right about where my body mounts are, we can start swinging it over. I've got to come back far enough that I have room for the drive shaft to come up. So our whole Z pipe is going to be in this zone right underneath the stealth air, and then we'll come up here and roll. We'll come up here and then roll outside the frame. So we come outside the frame, we'll be along here, and then I'm going to do my Spintechs right around in this region, which will actually be plenty far away from the tires. And then off the end of this right about here, we'll figure out some sort of turnout dump. That way it keeps all the exhaust fumes out of the cab, which is kind of important when you're crawling around. As much as I love doing like some cutouts and side exit exhaust or something like that, that would just flood the cab when you're doing low speed rock crawling and stuff with an open top like this. It would just flood it with exhaust gases. So we got to get them out and away. So that's our plan. Let's get to work. Well, boys, reckon it's about time to treat it with some fire. I reckon that should be okay. Alright, so what I think I'm going to do here is I'm gonna cut to make 2 of these S bends out of stainless, which this is just, what is this, a 90? So 90, cut in half down the middle. And I'll take one end and tack it to one of these big 4-foot sections so that I can get this through here and kind of into position. And then I'll take that other end off of the header and get them lined up. Whether I need to make another little transition piece in there or all that, I think I'll know once I have it a little bit further along on that process. But I'm going to do 2 of those so that I'll have that on both sides, and then I can hit the right rotation and all of that in whatever filler piece I need to get those lined up with each other. So when you're doing mandrel bends and TIG welding everything, like this exhaust is going to be fully TIG welded because it's stainless steel. It'll get back purged and all that. Fit up is everything. Like, the tighter your fit up, the better your final product is going to be. So if you're going to do this and you're going to do it with stainless, it is 1,000% worth taking the time you need to make sure your cuts are straight, to make sure they're dressed correctly, to make sure everything's clean. Not gonna lie, I prefer doing this with a zip tie, so I'm gonna grab a couple zip ties and do this. This is just a little too flimsy. It works. It'd work in a pinch. I prefer zip ties though. Eventually though, I would really like to get some of those fixtures for doing this real repeatable, because I feel like we're going to have a decent bit of custom exhaust happening on this channel over time. So, and so you want to line your zip tie up. I like to find visually what looks like center, and then just go a tiny bit off of it, because you're only going to mark one side of this zip tie. One of the other things that's really important when you're doing stuff, especially like with stainless, is you need, like I'm cutting all these on a bandsaw, you need a good blade. If you have a crappy blade that's not really like made for stainless, it'll dull this thing out in like 1 or 2 cuts. Whereas this is the blade I use at work all the time. My coworker actually is the one that started using these and turned me on to them. And we've done entire exhaust jobs on a single blade. Like, they last a million times longer than just a regular old bandsaw blade. So let me grab it. I'll show you which one it is. It's these guys, the Milwaukee Extreme Metal, the 4839-0611. These have been working great for me on stainless exhaust type stuff. So you see what I mean by like a tight fit up. This is super important. That's going to weld so much better. So that one's good. This one should be just as good, although I felt this blade walk a little bit. You can see that one, the blade walked a tiny bit, and you can see just that little gap in there. That makes a difference. So we're going to clean this up. So you can see the difference there. That's good. That's how small of a difference that it can make. And that'll make a night and day difference when you're welding this. We're going to attach the short sides to our V-bands that are going to come off the exhaust. So those will come up. We're going to attach this longer section to our long pipe, because that's going to run the length of the truck. And then we'll get these lined up under there and figure out what I got to do to keep this up high where I want it and this, and join them together. go. So that we got tacked in 3 spots. That'll hold this securely on there. And then this is a V-band, so I can put it on there and this can rotate as needed. I'm gonna get my V-band chunks on, get the long tubes mucked up. We're gonna use our pipe stands that we made real early in the channel. I think it was one of our first few videos here, but we're gonna keep putting these to use, and can't really fit the camera too good under here and be able to see and do what I'm doing, so it's mostly just putting puzzle pieces together, holding stuff where it is, seeing what I'm gonna need to do to fit, and once I get a little bit more done, I'll bring you in there, show you what we did. Alright, so we had these up under there. I don't know how well you could see on that other video, but we got them in there, measured the distance. That was 4 inches between this surface and this surface from where we split it, so it needs like a 4-inch rise, right? And then what you do, if you haven't done any of this type of stuff before, is you get it and you hold it in place and you make some marks in one spot, and then I can't flip it and hold it at the same time, but you do some around on the other side too, so that way you can pull it out in 2 pieces, and as long as your marks line up, you should be able to tack these together and go right back into the same spot. So let's tack these together and see if they go back in the same spot. Hot. How that fits, but you can see kind of how this works, right? We've got our V-band, our sweep coming off of it, our straight section piece, then our sweep into that, and then this is our long run, so it's going to run all the way to the back. Alright, so here's where we're at so far. We got both of our collectors. He's tucked in that little hole up there. We got this side tucked into that hole, and we are ran all the way back. So anyways, there's going to need to be some sort of a twist or a switcheroo that happens in this region, but it needs to look really cool. It can't just exist there. I mean, what's the point of doing this if it doesn't look rad? So, got a little bit of figuring exactly how I want to do all this merging and tying together and all that sorcery. So this is one of those stupid things that's going to drive me insane. This pipe, my hangers are in the same spot. Obviously the headers are different. This tube comes back like 7/8 of an inch further than this tube. And even though I'll never see it, knowing that this weld seam is going to be that much further back right there when they can be symmetrical is going to irritate my soul until the day that I freaking die. So we're going to mark this one up, pull this out, chop it so that these are even and they can be symmetrical from there going back. I swear I'm not crazy. Half of you understand exactly why I'm doing this. got the tornado chambers mocked up. I'll show you how I got those. I just stacked some wood on the spring and then taped a wood block behind it so that it can sit there, and then I got like a little piece wedged up there so we're level with the frame. So we've got our piece made for this side. I still need to trim this back a little bit and then make an extension piece to go here. But I want you to see what I've been talking about, right? So we cut this into 45-degree sections, and then everything rotates. So you see we come up, there's our first 45 degrees. This one's rotated to kick out a little bit, and then this top one doubles back. Because what we're doing here is this needs to swing out a little bit more and then come up and back in to line up to this. Something like that. All right, well, here's the driver's side from below. You can see come up, then it swoops up and in and around down to the mufflation. And from out here, you can see there's one. All right, so this is true duals. There's no crossover yet, so we're gonna see what the difference is once we add that crossover in. Let's go fire it up. Can't wait. Yes. So this is going to sound crazy because it is a little bit crazy to say it out loud. But we've got 2 J bends, 2 U bends, 2 45s, and I'm not sure this is going to be enough to do the crossover that I want to do. So I'm going to cut this up and we're going to find out. So basically this is what the plan is, and it's largely going to depend on what I can fit. This tape edge is the inner edge of my exhaust tubes within, the frame rails. This is the drive shaft. I want the drive shaft to be as high as I can, or the area over the drive shaft to be as high as I can, obviously for clearance during flex and compression, right? So, and then the onboard air system, my stealth onboard air lives up in this zone. This is going to be tucked up to it. So, my plan is to come from low here and sweep up. The rear is going to kick up a lot sharper, and then they're going to twist together. They can't touch. Remember, this side needs to end up here, and this side needs to end up here. So they're going to come up from low and sweep up. This is going to come up at a higher angle. They're going to have some sort of twist, flatten out over the drive shaft for the most clearance, and then I'm going to mirror that twist back on this side as much as I can to sweep it back in the same way. This is the 10 pounds of cool stuff in a 5-pound space I was talking about. So, join me as we drive ourselves insane. Well, I got it to here, and I realized, while it looks cool on that side, they're already flipped. Well, here's what I came up with. This is the best I could do with the constraints that I was given, right? So we just have no space. There's very little vertical space. So what I did is I overlaid these so that this blue line, see, this is my exhaust, the inner edge of my exhaust pipes under the frame, and this is my drive line. So I gave myself maximum clearance drive line hump that'll go in the middle. And then, as we were saying, right, this corner needs to end up down here, that corner needs to end up down here, but they can't intersect, they just have to bypass each other. So I wanted to do all this fancy swoopy stuff, and there just isn't room. So I tried to make it as visually balanced as I could, right? So from the back, it looks balanced because you've got one pipe sticking out there, and then the narrow drop in, and the wide drop out. And then from the top, you have this piece, and then this is kind of like the opposite of it. So I'm going to make a little brace piece that goes in the middle with a dimple die, and we'll get that thing tacked up. Or not, well, it is tacked up. We'll get this thing welded up. I just recorded this whole thing and I didn't hit record. Round 2. So, while I'm back purging this section of tube so that I can weld it, which is my back section to my muffler, we're going to talk about our TIG settings a little bit. I very lightly touched on those in the TIG 101 video last week. We'll get a little bit more in depth here. So, we're back purging this, which means we're pumping from my dual regulator here. We're pumping argon through my plug and displacing all the oxygen out of this muffler and exhaust tube, and we're displacing all the oxygen, and it's going to be filled with 100% pure argon. What that does is it protects the weld from the inside, right? Stainless steel is a very reactive metal. So when you weld it and you've got the backside exposed to regular air, it sucks all that crap out of the air into it. So it oxidizes the crap out of your weld, which makes your weld weaker, more brittle, more prone to cracking. It's not going to lay down. It's not going to look as nice. The inside gets what's called like sugaring. It looks terrible. It's porous and sputtery and jagged. It looks like a piece of pumice inside here. Whereas when you back purge it, the inside looks almost like the outside, right? So it's good, it's strong, it's sealed. You maintain the corrosion resistance of your stainless pipe, which is, aside from looking really cool, the main benefit of stainless is that it lasts a long time because it doesn't corrode, right? So my setting for that, I usually run 5 CFH. I don't know why I can't say that. So I'll usually run 5 CFH through here. So I give it, once you turn your air on, you give it 2-3 minutes. If you got a big complicated part, you give it a little bit longer. If you got a little tiny part, you don't need to give it that much time. Use your own judgment. So this is filling up at 5 CFH. I just can't even say that today. Anyways, our next setting is going to be for our actual welder for our torch. I have my welder set at 69, dude, for 2 reasons. Number 1, I'm a child. Number 2, you're going to run different voltages for different parts, right? Where I'm doing my V-bands, there's a lot more material on the V-band there, so it needs more amperage than it needs to do the 16 gauge for the stainless. So for the stainless, I'm running half to 2/3 of a pedal maybe, so in the ballpark of 50 amps, give or take. And then when I'm getting to the flanges where it's thicker and it needs all that heat, I'm giving her the full 69 there. So you don't need to use a number 12 cup. You can more than adequately weld this with a number 8 cup. I've done it many, many times. And you need to calibrate the amount of air coming out, or not the amount of air, the amount of argon coming out of your cup accordingly. So your general rule of thumb is your minimum, you want to be your cup size times 2, and your maximum would be your cup size times 2.5. So I want to be in the ballpark of 24 to 30, and I'm set at 27. So I'm dialed right in the middle there. If you're running a number 8 cup, you're going to want to be between 16 and 20, yeah, 16 and 20. So you want to be in that ballpark. You don't want to pump above what the max rating is on these, because it'll start swirling it with the air around it, and you lose the entire purpose of your gas coverage. And if you go too low, you're not getting enough gas out of it, so it's not adequately displacing the oxygen around your tungsten, which is also going to result in a crappy weld. So I think that about covers us there. And since I did this twice, we should be good and full of oxygen, or full of argon on here. So let's kick the tires and light some fires and get to welding. So there is one more setting. There's your post flow setting. And what I do is I set my post flow so that it keeps flowing a little bit longer than the weld is still glowing. That way, if you lose your post flow and this is still glowing, this is still really hot, and as soon as that post flow goes away, it's gonna and suck everything in there, and then you contaminate your weld. And I'm going to time lapse this, and you'll probably see I dip a lot for a couple reasons. I mean, everyone dips more than they say they do on Instagram. And number 2, I had an eye injury when I was like 4 years old, so my depth perception sucks, which means TIG welding can be really tricky for me sometimes because I can't gauge my my depth is good with no depth perception, right? So I end up dipping a little bit more than I probably should, but it doesn't really matter. It still turns out nice. It's still strong. It still looks good. Just means I go through a little bit more tungsten than other guys. Alright, so before we can start the nightmare of attaching this, I need to finish these pipes on both sides. So we're going to do this to both sides. I need to add a flex bellows because, as you know, square body frames twist a lot. So I need a little bit more flex built into this exhaust system. So that guy's going to go right here. And then back here, we're going to add one more V-band per side. Reason being, I thought this was going to be enough, but pulling all this out to fully weld it, once these two pipes are connected with this, This will be impossible to take out without dropping my front like tranny cross member, and I would like it to be more serviceable than that. So we're just gonna cut this, weld this guy in, put these V-bands up here. I've got it marked somewhere on this side, right like that. Get him back in there, and then we can finally start fitting this cross member, or not cross member, this crossover. And I know this has been a long one, boys, but we're on the home stretch. I will say though, crawling all around this truck over these last few months, these Venturi Fab shirts are rather comfortable and durable, and they support the channel. So you should get you a few and see if you can't wear one out before I do on your truck. Well, let's see where we're at so far. We got these front two mocked up, ready to tie in. And now I got the hard ones. These back two need to come in on a bend, and I'm not gonna lie, I haven't done a ton of that, so I'm gonna have to hand notch these ones. I'll bring you along for part of it on this one here at least. So let me set the camera up. I'll do my best to explain what we're doing here. What I'm gonna do is I'm lining this up to where it's as straight as I can underneath it, and then I'm gonna mark this inside edge of this exhaust tube onto this. So we're like right there and right here, and then I'm also going to mark the middle, because this notch is going to need to come down like this to the middle, and then this back one's gonna need to do a very similar thing. So I've got a 45 inside. What I'm gonna do is get this big rough notch in, and then I'm gonna fit this onto this bend that I've got inside as best I can, and hope for the best, because this one's tricky. So wish me luck. All right, got to re-angle this piece, so here goes nothing. And I did give in. I put a brand new blade on this because the last one was starting to drag a little bit, and this is a risky cut. Brand new blade, that's like butter. And now I can get a little bit different angle on this, try to get this back one lined up. But these front two are. Look at that. Hi there. I know I've said it a couple times now, but we're on the home stretch. So I'm going to clean these old marks off, mark where my tubes are intersecting. We're going to pull this out. I got one more corner here to tack together. And then I need to drill holes and open these openings up so that the exhaust can actually flow through this and come out this tube and back into this tube. And then I'll get those opened up. I'll get this one that's still taped together, tacked together. We'll get it back in place. I'll start getting it welded. And then we're going to pull this whole exhaust out. I'll finish weld this cross member in, and we'll show you a layout here. I'm going to lay this exhaust next to the factory, what's left of the factory exhaust that I took out. I don't know how much of it was factory to begin with, but a good chunk of it was. So we're going to lay these two next together and show you why this is way mo better. Oh, all right, got the goggles, so you know what that means. Time to cut. Up. All right, we'll clean these up with a little sander. Keep on trucking, baby. Should be enough to hold her solid. Now I can pull this thing out, weld her up on the bench. Weld her up on the bench. Well, I guess I did a pretty decent job making all my V-bands even. Because this thing will freestand no problem. And I'm pretty even on those. I am freaking thrilled with this thing. Holy cow. Here where this cuts over and dips under that, that's why this is a Z-pipe. These crossovers do not intersect, and then they merge back in at this 45. That's going to create the pressure zone and give us a bunch of extra scavenging. It really gets good when you look at them side by side. Gee, I wonder which one's going to be better. All right, enough pictures on the floor. We're going to get this on the truck and go blow your eardrums out. All right, well, we're all installed. Let's check it out. So we're pipes, we got our flexes, V-bands, the pièce de résistance. Oh man, I cannot get enough of this crossover. This thing is so stinking cool. God, I can't wait to hear how this thing sounds. Very nice.
Actually pretty tall on one side, I think.
Yeah.
All right, well, it's been a journey today, but there we have it. Doug Thorley headers, 2.5-inch stainless, a super rad Z-pipe, Spintech 6000 mufflers. I'm thrilled. I love it. It's nice and quiet inside. At least from what I can tell from video footage, it sounds great outside. I think, you know what? Let's finish this thing up with this thing just idling, because I want to hear it from outside. I haven't really got to hear it from outside much. Come on, Key. Nope. Oh, yeah. That sounds way better, man. So, as I said before, this is definitely the most intricate crossover and all that junk I've ever done on an exhaust. So, with that being said, if you don't get started pushing your boundaries and doing the best you can do, you never get finished.